Hi again. How are you? I hope you're doing well. It is the 4th of July weekend here, and there's a storm that's been trying to show up for hours now, but it hasn't yet. But it's sort of gray and gloomy, and it felt like a good time to continue with our reading. We're getting closer to the end, so we'll see. It might take maybe three more videos. To reach the end, and as I've been mentioning, just be prepared because it is quite sad. All right. At night, to take their minds off things, they watched a show called River Monsters. It always started with the blue-eyed British host arriving in a village where the fishermen were disappearing, dragged down, thrashed to death, swallowed by the biblical unknown. For the rest of the episode, he would track sinuous ripples in the water until sometimes he hauled up something monstrous and prehistoric, with a crisp eye that breathed the moonlight like a gill, and he would call it beautiful and then let it go. At night, to take their minds off things, they watched LeBron James. The soles of his feet were geniuses. The pink tips of his fingers were geniuses. In his hands, the basketball became a genius. The hoop, as it received his arc, became a genius. The air that he sliced through was the breath they were holding. Aha, 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 eureka! He traveled down the court, outrunning everything they did not know. The rusted city unbent and rose to the moon. The whole world was a genius of watching that man. The doctor's specialized faces were alive with interest. In front of her sister, they fought over their future shares of the placenta, the cord blood, mother's blood, baby's blood. I've never seen anything like this, the geneticist declared almost hysterically, and I will never see anything like this until the day I die. Messy bench who loves drama, she thought, the words rising into her head like a warding spell. For whatever lives we lead, they do prepare us for these moments. The exome test had found the misspelling, the one missed letter in a very long book. The family sat at the conference table as the entire dictionary was shot at them through pea guns. The words the doctor said were Proteus syndrome. The words they said were 1 in a billion. The words they meant were elephant man. She thought of the bare Victorian rooms with clocks ticking in the background, of the splendid dignity and dialogue and makeup of the movie, which must have understood something, but no, did not understand this. The words on the poster, I am a man. At the end of his life, the Wikipedia entry said, the elephant man laid down his head so that he could sleep like other people and suffocated under the weight of it. But that bit of the Wikipedia entry, the end, was always the most suspect. Oh, she dared the geneticist to try to tell her who Proteus was. She dared him to hold out his thick, miracle-roughened, eminent hands and mime the changeable waters slipping through them, there and then, not there. If he did, she would slap the table with all her might and say, who do you think you're talking to? I was a mythology girl. The baby was the first and only case that had ever been diagnosed in utero. The excitement in the room was as palpable as an apple, for the tree of knowledge had suddenly produced an orange. Still, the doctors urged them finally, don't go home and look this up. That was the difference between the old generation and the new, though. She would rather die than not look something up. She would actually rather die. But the simulation is 3% more efficient when bad things happen to good people, a user named Bacon Fetus wrote on a forum where they were avidly discussing another Proteus case. This one, a woman whose legs had grown back after being amputated. And look on the bright side, someone responded, like, hey, more legs. People went to Pinewood Shacks at the edge of town, she told the baby, as she played brass music to her sister's stomach. People went to nightclubs and slouched together between palms and slid silver flasks out of their back pockets. It was a terrible age, she told the baby. The best players were Black, and it was Jim Crow. The best players were Jewish, and it was World War II. But the horns played past some eternal curfew. The horns lasted as long as anyone wanted to dance. The horns seemed to say, I am here, I am here. An art therapist showed up at the house, sat at the kitchen table, and began unpacking her pens and pastels and watercolors with the pretty irrelevance of a girl poking a daisy into the barrel of a gun. Art, she wanted to cry out. You think art can help us with this, you fucking hippie? Her sister clinging tight to her at midnight, her belly molten hot like the center of the earth, the breath pouring out of her like the atmosphere of Venus, planet of love, and saying, maybe she will help us find out about things. Her sister spoke of them often, the numbers. She spoke of how often things go right, how human replication was a machine for things mostly going right. When considering the vast waterfall of data in the baby's exome sequencing, for instance, it was impossible not to think that there was some power of gravity, a magnet. The drops of mercury mostly flew together. The flock cohered into a single wing. The numbers mostly did not get sick, stayed well. She could try to pray. She could put on a white nightgown, kneel down, and fold her hands, though she doubted that her cries would be heard, considering how recently she had written in the portal that Jesus was a thought and a hoe. I cannot see the good in this, her mother whispered in the small, sheltered airspace of the car, where they had taken to having controlled mutual outbursts as soon as they left the house. Her shoulders rounded once more over the steering wheel, same shape as her grandmother's hump. Last night they had watched slides and eaten popcorn, and amid the warm, glowing agates of 1976, she had seen her teenage mother walking toward the camera in a bathing suit, with the same flat stomach her sister had had before, standing at the window in nothing but a Bengal's hat and a thong. This is what happened. They knew someone. They knew someone at the hospital, and so the tall stack of her sister's paperwork rose to the top like cream. When the ethics committee signed off finally on a 35-week delivery, the female doctor in silk headscarf and rose gold Michael Kors watch, the doctor who might now be barred from the country, the doctor who was not allowed at any point to mention termination, the doctor who must have felt a ping in her lower belly the moment we lost the Supreme Court. The doctor actually wept. She thought of women in great dark business suits with their hair pulled back, testifying in front of Senate committees. The faces of the senators were always comfortably closed against them, like doors on a federal holiday. Because the worst case scenarios had happened to them, the women must have done something to deserve it. They knew nothing about this period when we were inside the great biceps and just before it flexed, when we were not yet the people it had happened to. Dark stock photo of an elderly OBGYN crouched between a pregnant woman's legs, eating a large and luxurious sandwich. All along the walls of the hospital were memorial tiles, which must have been cheap enough that even poorer families could afford them. Excusing herself from the waiting room, she would sneak out to the corridors and obsessively photograph the tiles, many of which included terrible drawings. Ronald McDonald giving a thumbs up. To what? She shivered. A frightening large toad named Big Billy. A picture of a baby in a full feather headdress, dead in the year 1971, when that sort of thing was still fine. How far did a word have to travel from its source in order to become unrecognizable? Spellings of the word baby that the portal had lately cycled through. Babby, baby, babby with an H. Middle English had seen similar transformations. Babe, baby with two E's, baby with an I. Yet in every variation, the meaning shone through, as durable as a soul, wrapped in swaddling clothes. Raw almonds in the waiting room, and then a cry in the operating theater, and the photographers from Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep crowded all at once around her sister and brother-in-law to take stunning black and white photographs of the baby before she passed away. But she didn't, and she didn't. And then she unfurled like a wet spring thing and was alive. I believe she will come out, and I believe she will cry, the grotto green neurologist had told them, alone of all the doctors. That's the end of that chapter. Wow, I sort of had forgotten how much this really gets into abortion discourse. And of course, given the recent Supreme Court ruling on Roe v. Wade, you know, as the kids would say, it hits differently. But I won't say much more except to say that the baby is alive now. And so there's a different journey ahead than what the narrator and everyone else imagined. So I'll see you here next time for that. Stay well. Bye.